you've got to take it. And we all get to listen.
Where should I be looking? Am I supposed to be?
Me, but if you're going to look anywhere, I would look, if you're going to think audience, then you can look center.
I was pretending these people don't exist.
It's fine right now.
It's just me and you, man. And then the millions and millions of fans.
All of the people.
Welcome to STAK Ventures Podcast, where founders, investors, and innovators come together to explore what it really takes to build, scale great companies. Welcome to the show, everybody. My name is Brian Sparks. Got the entire team in the background making this happen. Good to see everybody. Say hi to Jason, Ollie, Ade, and Jeff. They're all back here. And we've got Ethan in the house today. And Ethan is really the quintessential guest we're going after. He's got an exciting founder's journey that we're going to talk all about. He is actually living at STAK. He's part of STAK Space. And we often talk about why STAK Ventures is the go-to-market advantage for all of you founders who are watching. We have the ideal ICP. And what I often say about that is that we have the infrastructure, we have the community, and we have the proximity to the Bay Area for all of you who are looking to raise, grow, accelerate. And we also have another P, and that's programming. So we're building that out. But Ethan, good to see you. Thanks for joining us today. You've got a really cool, you've got a really cool story, but you and I have chatted, but our audience hasn't heard anything about you yet. So give a little quick bio about what you're building and who you are.
All right, let's start from square one. Born in SF, I moved away very quick, went to LA, left LA at 17, moved to Boston for 12 years, went to Northeastern, studied computer science and physics there, and lived in Boston for those 12 years, and then moved away, went traveling for a bit, went down to South America, and then COVID hit. And I decided to move to the Bay and start a company. Back to the Bay, yeah. Yes. I mean, I hadn't been back since I was 4.
Yeah, and that's rare, seeing people who will leave the Bay. You're pretty much born and raised here. Well, not born. But to come back, that is such a rare thing. But you came back and built a company. And so people, we tried to pronounce your name and I couldn't do it. I kind of butchered it. So make sure you give our audience your full name and the name of your company too, because Refold is really cool.
Yeah. My name is Ethan Puzarne, and I'm the founder of Refold Languages.
Cool. So we're going to hear all about that. But this is not your first startup. That you've got a cool journey going on, but what got you into this? Like, did you know when you were a young strapping lad, going to you said Northeastern? Northeastern. Did you know you were going to be an entrepreneur growing up in startup, or was there somebody in your life who kind of like guided you there? What was the beginning for you?
Yeah. So when I was deciding what to do for college and my career, I actually was deciding between film production. I wanted to be an editor, or going into physics because I really liked physics and science. And I went to Northeastern, decided to go for physics. And Northeastern has this really cool program called the co-op program where you study for 6 months out of the year and then you work for 6 months out of the year. And I was studying physics for 2 years and I was prepping for my co-op and trying to find one. And I realized there were basically no jobs in physics for an undergrad. And so I had already been studying some computer science and decided, you know what, computer science is like obviously the place to be. So I added the double major and switched to computer science, and I got a job almost immediately as an intern.
Did you say, correct me if I'm wrong, did I hear something about film too as well? You had an interest in film?
Yeah, when I was in high school, I used to make a lot of films for classes and just for fun. And so I have a theater background as well, and I did a lot of video editing and cinematography.
So I find this fascinating. I love how people think, right? I try to map, how they do what they do. And obviously, if you're very heavily into, science and that research and data, there's one side of the brain that you use. And if you're into art, there's the other side of the brain. There's that kind of contrast. But it sounds like you've really nurtured both sides of your brain in terms of creativity and data. And there came this point in college where you were still figuring out what you want to do when you grow up. And you said, well, okay, the math is this. I'm not going to find really the job that I wanted. And was that kind of the point where you said, well, I'll just create it myself? Or what was kind of the next steps?
Yeah, so that was not the point of wanting to create it myself. I went into computer science and then I got a couple jobs. And then out of college, I worked for Motorola working on internet infrastructure. So I worked on the machine that converted fiber optic lines into coaxial lines for bringing internet to your home through like Comcast or one of those cable modem providers. And in that job, I was like, I don't really want to work for big companies. So after I left that, I switched into startups. And when I got into startups, that's when I really started to take on that entrepreneurial spirit of like, I really want to do something myself. I'm watching, my leaders at these companies build these companies, and I want to do that too. So over the course of the 3 companies that I worked for after Motorola, I really worked my way up to being on the leadership team at those companies. I knew I wanted to go into managing software engineers and software engineering processes, products, and companies. And so I learned from the people that I worked with, tried to put myself in a position of leadership to gain those skills, knowing that I was preparing for starting a company at some point in the future.
I love that. So you kind of got early stage of your life, you got a view of what it took to run a company from the top down. You saw the org chart, all the flows, what it took to bring customers, the product, make them happy, and run it. When did you say to yourself, okay, I know enough, I can do this? And then you have, again, multiple companies. Talk about that transition from working for somebody else to working for yourself. What was that leap like?
Well, I don't know if mine's traditional or not. I feel like a lot of folks, they start a company while they're working at another company. That does not work for me. I have to do one or the other. I can't really multitask when it comes to something that large. So for me, I decided that I was just going to abandon my life entirely and move away from Boston and go to South America and take a refresh. I was actually planning to be in South America for 2 years, learning Spanish and bouncing around, exploring all the sites. And then COVID hit and I was stuck at home and I didn't know what to do with myself. And no, I came back for a wedding and then I had a flight booked for April 1st, 2020 to Colombia. And
right there, yeah.
Flight got canceled, obviously. I was stuck back in the States and I decided, okay, well, I'm going to keep up this language learning journey. I was following somebody online who I really appreciated his language learning methodology. I was already thinking about okay, what company am I going to start? He and I connected and it was just sort of a perfect match because he was really more on the language learning theory side and I was much more on the how do we build a business side. And so we synced up, worked together for 3 or 4 months on a project to sort of put all of his thoughts and ideas into writing. It's from there.
And this is obviously during lockdown, right? And was the fact that were you close with each other? I mean, having access to each other, was that important? How did you make it work in those times?
So the funny thing is we've never actually met in person to this day.
Okay. All right. You just, opened the possibilities for a lot of people in the world to work together.
Yeah. COVID made it normal for people to meet and work entirely online, which I think was a little odd for folks before that. And honestly, through the 6 years of running this company, I think I've only met 2 of my employees at any point. It's been an almost entirely remote company.
Let's talk about that for a little bit. You have, co-founders all over the world, teammates all over the world. And number one, this wasn't Refold. This was another company.
No,
right?
This was Refold.
This was Refold.
Yeah.
Okay. So just to make a distinction, because, I heard 2 different companies. You've built one, you're building another. Give me kind of the distinction in our audience, the distinction of, because you've built 2 really quick. And one is kind of, you mentioned, is still running kind of on its own.
Yeah. So the story here is, you say is pretty quick. In the Silicon Valley legends, everybody's like, oh, overnight success, 2 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It takes a lot longer than that to build a company.
Yeah. So how did you do? So how did you get you had the one company and then the other? What was the journey like? Because the one thing I want to really get to, so everyone who's listening right now knows what I'm going to, is that Ethan has experience with bootstrapping, and that's one topic I'm super hot on right now, and how more founders can do that rather just can quickly get after the validation of raising. I think the fact that you can bootstrap, gain traction, and prove out your company, I think, is a smart way to go. So talk how you built these 2 companies a little bit, and then we're going to get into the bootstrapping portion of how you move the company forward.
Yes. Overview is started Refold in 2020, right at the end of 2020. We bootstrapped that for the most part. And then when AI sort of hit the the industry started to incorporate AI into our daily practices, I realized there were a ton of gaps in the way that we were using AI to build software. I was really frustrated with how AI was building software for me, really trying to figure out how to optimize AI for software engineering, which led to building out all of this infrastructure, which we decided did not belong inside of Refold. So we actually spun it out as a second company. That company launched 2.5 months ago now. So I've been primarily focused on that for the past 2.5 months. And then everything that we learn from there, everything that we build from there gets made available to Refold and the team there to continue working with better tooling.
Got it. Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit more about, again, who Refold is serving, what the pain point but you talked a little bit about bootstrapping. Give me some insight in what that looked like for you in the early stages.
Yeah, so I think there's this rosy picture of what bootstrapping really is, right? Like you launch something, you get money day one, and then it just compounds over time. And that has not been what I've experienced. And oftentimes I'll go to people and ask them who say they are bootstrappers, and I'll ask them like, how'd you bootstrap? And they're like, oh, I just have a pile of money lying around that I used to bootstrap. Right. It's like, how did you avoid taking like outside money? It's like, well, I already had money, or like I mortgaged my house, mortgaged their houses in order to like get the money for the startup capital. So I think the term true bootstrapping of like literally launch with nothing is kind of a lie. You have to launch with something, whether that is your time or the money that you earn from somewhere else, or the money that you get from your house, or if you're borrowing money from a friend or family, or if you are taking money from investors. Give that initial kickstart.
Right.
Now, with modern day tooling, with AI, you can get that initial first dollar in the door a lot faster, but it's still not, you still have to have something to like throw at the wall, even if it's just your time.
Yeah.
And so I think, the true bootstrapping from nothing is not a real pursuit that people should pursue.
Aspire to. Yeah.
There is a need for initial resources. The way that I did it was I sort of skipped the initial bootstrapping phase. I connected with somebody who already had an online following and already had an audience. And so what I did was I took his ideas and made it into a business, but he already had the following. So on day one, we already had 100,000 people listening. And so I sort of cheated my way through that first initial bootstrapping phase, which I think is like a perfectly legitimate strategy.
I think that's smart, right? Though. You've built you found a community and then built on it. And so what did that look like? Because one of the things, I'm a shameless plug here, one of the things that I think STAK Ventures is proud of, we go back to, the infrastructure, community, and proximity, is we've put a lot of effort into building community. We believe providing value through introductions, access to events, and doing a lot of things that bring people together and build trust, and providing value is huge. And it sounds like you sense that connecting with a community and then using them as kind of as a leverage to promote what you've done. I don't know, maybe putting words in your mouth, but this seems to be kind of a unique play for a lot of people, and maybe even a new play for a lot of people.
Yeah, I don't know if it was that well thought out up front. In retrospect, this is what I did, but that was not like my thesis or my strategy going in. What happened was I was struggling with a problem. I found somebody online who I thought could deliver that solution. He already had a following. I was part of his following, and I just offered my services to help him. And that was how it took off.
Yeah. So let's go from there. Let's talk about what Refold is doing. Like what was the problem in the market that you saw? What was the pain point? And then talk a little bit about the solution.
Yeah. So I studied Japanese in high school and college for 6 years, and I learned almost nothing. And I walked out of there being completely incapable of speaking any Japanese whatsoever.
Sounds like my entire educational career.
And I heard this story over and over again from people of like, oh, I studied it in school, but I can't use it.
Yeah.
Or I can't understand, or I can't speak, or whatever it is. And so that was really frustrating to me throughout all of my educational career, because I generally feel like I'm like, my one superpower is that I can learn things quickly, and languages were something that I literally just could not couldn't figure it out. And so when I was 25, I think, I started learning Spanish. It's like, well, maybe Japanese was just too hard. I'll do Spanish instead. And so I went down rabbit hole with Spanish for about 6 months, and ended up studying in a school in Guatemala, and walked out of that experience being like, I still have no idea how to study language. Like, I made it pretty far in 6 months, but I have no idea how this is going to like lead me to real fluency. And so I dropped it for a while. when I picked it back up again, it was when I moved to South America, and I was like, all right, we're going to try it for real. We're just going to like go and immerse, because everyone tells you like, oh, you just got to go live in. Right? And so I did that for 6+ months in South America, and still felt like I feel like I'm grasping at straws and throwing spaghetti at the wall, and like things aren't sticking, and I don't understand like how this process works. Even though I'm studying in schools and I'm talking to people every day, like there were still these like huge gaps in my ability, and that sort of led me down the route of, okay, we need to like go back to first principles, figure out like what is going on here, look for some alternative ideas. And that's when I came across a YouTube influencer named Matt First Japan. And he had this entire premise that true immersion is not simply just sitting, like going to a country, right? There's plenty of people here in America who live here their entire lives and don't speak English. So you're not just going to naturally pick it up just by going to the country. You'll pick up some, like you'll get some conversational, but like that really high level of fluency requires work, and it requires like a different strategy.
So I got to ask,
Yeah.
I mean, and I want a lot of founders who are listening right now, is you saw a problem not only in the market, but with, something you were struggling with.
Oh yeah, that's the common theme in my life.
Yeah.
It's like I only care about the things that are hurting me.
Yeah, it just wasn't an opportunity. I mean, you saw as an opportunity in the market, but you first felt the pain in the market.
I built it to solve my problem.
Yeah.
I knew it would also solve other people's problems, but I really built it just for myself.
I think that's missing with a lot of founders who come up with good ideas. I'm doing air quotes right now, everybody. Good ideas is they haven't necessarily felt the pain yet. And if they haven't felt the pain, then they don't know how to really target their product to the right market oftentimes. And we talk on the show a lot of times about the importance of empathy, understanding the pain that the market is feeling in order to target effectively. But you were struggling with this yourself. So the second question I had to ask was there anything in your background from your Motorola days and your corporate, working in leadership that you used early on? That was kind of a curveball.
Like skills that I picked up.
Yeah.
So I would say the number one thing that I got out of Motorola was I was working on this really complicated system called a cable modem termination system. It was 11 million lines of code. And my job was to take field reports of the problems that were coming in and to figure out where in these 11 million lines was that problem occurring, and then write a patch to fix it. And it was by far, to date, the most complicated thing that I've ever worked with. So the thing that I'm working on now is close second. And what that really gave me the ability to do was take something that was incredibly complex, incredibly interwoven and interconnected, and figure out how to map something through it and like learn how the system works quickly.
So building a product early on, solving problems helped you as you started to get your MVP together, essentially. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think it's more abstract than that. It's not like there was no product at Motorola that I was like working on. I was really just there to like take problems that were coming in and figure out where in this incredibly complex system that problem was originating from. And so I think coming into really any field with the skills that I learned from that experience, I can jump into any new field, any new domain of expertise, and really like come up to speed very quickly on it. And how do I find the common thread through them that I can address? And that is the most useful skill that I have ever developed in my entire life. I apply it every day with both of my companies.
Got it. Okay. So you essentially were feeling a pain, in the world. You were going to solve yourself. You sounds like you had a great co-founder at the time. You partnered with someone who had a following, a community. What was kind of the next iteration in terms of the growth and going to market?
Yeah. So this is one of those, the quote of like, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, right?
Yeah. Mike Tyson.
Yeah. So, I definitely felt like I was super arrogant in my 20s. I would like work in these companies.
Kind of need that though, right? To launch
you do.
a company.
There's a fake quote that I really like. It's a fake JFK quote. It's like, we do these things not because they are hard, we do these things not because they are easy, but because we thought they would be easy.
Yeah. Okay.
And I thought it would be a lot easier than it was. And I, in my early career, I would look at all of my leaders and be like, oh, all these people are doing the wrong thing. They're making the wrong choices. And then you actually get in the driver's seat and you're like, oh, this is way harder than I thought it was going to be. And there's a lot of stubbing your toe and making the wrong choices and going down bad pathways that you have to kill and making mistakes. And so it's not a clean journey at all. It's not like I had like this grand strategy, and like every 2 days I had to change the grand strategy because I learned something new.
So you had to really stay flexible in the early stages.
Yeah, stay flexible. One of the things that I actually think that I did wrong in the early days was that I didn't have a clear monetization and product vision. I very much came at it with like, let's just explore and see what the market wants. And that worked. Like we did end up finding a lot of opportunities to provide to the market and to earn some money. But there wasn't like a clear, this is our destination. This is what we're trying to accomplish that was easily feasible. I had this like big grand vision. I'm like, we're going to do X, Y, and Z in this order, and we're going to accomplish this amazing thing. It turns out it is 10 times more challenging and expensive and complicated and time costing than you ever thought it was. So your entire grand plan to build this giant big thing is way harder.
Yeah. Well, so we've kind of talked about, how you got into it and how you're building it. Just for a clarity for our audience, what specifically now is Refold? I mean, it sounds like it's obviously helps someone learn different languages. What is it now to the market? If you're kind of going to give it the one or two tagline, this is what it is. What did it become? Because you pivoted a lot, it sounds like. So what did it become?
So the pivoting has actually led to a really messy situation where we have like 15 different product lines. So,
wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is great in the sense that we can like serve a lot of people, but it is really hard to create a clear narrative around. And so that's actually something that we are, over the past few months, we've been really trying to figure out how to untangle them. And the new approach that we're pursuing that has a clearer narrative is whatever your favorite piece of media is, whether that's Harry Potter or Avatar: The Last Airbender or some TV show that you want to watch or some YouTuber, we are going to create tools to help you understand that specific thing as quickly as possible.
From an education standpoint or just language standpoint?
Well, they're the same, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if I didn't, because where my thinking is, and again, I'm just kind of thinking if I spoke one language, which is kind of the journey in the early stages, like you struggle learning, Spanish, you struggle learning Japanese. Is it still just focused on language, or is it really on the educational piece of now what the film is about or the movie or the educational piece?
So the idea is like the whole premise of Refold is that you can accelerate your language learning by consuming a lot of content. And if you focus on learning to understand that content, it cascades into all of the other skills of language learning. And a lot of folks still don't target their language learning in such a way that they can understand content quickly. And so that's what the whole premise of our like clearer narrative is. Whatever piece of content you want to understand, let's say it's Harry Potter. That's the one that we launched a couple weeks ago. A lot of people love Harry Potter. It's available in 82 languages. So it's like a super valuable tool for language learning. But it includes, I think, like 9,000 unique words or more. It's really hard to get to that level because if you've studied, say, Spanish in school, you only know a couple hundred words. Our entire focus is how do we get you reading Harry Potter as quickly as possible? And we build tools for that specific use case, and it cascades into everything else.
So it truly is, it's an immersion program.
Yeah, but it's artificial immersion. You're creating an immersive environment in your home by consuming this content on a regular basis.
And can you plug this into any story or any piece to help someone? So say, for example, someone wanted to learn all about the Silicon Valley startup ecosystem. Could you plug in Refold to immerse them in, because there is a language, if you're coming to Silicon Valley, there is, that startup language, but also, how to do other things while you're here as well.
Yeah. So, it would be a much easier example because obviously you already have the foundation of English, but it's just like to learn all the terminology. Yeah, we would call that's domain specific terminology. So we would look for terms in that domain that either mean something different than they do in other domains, or that are rare terms that you wouldn't like. Venture is not a word that you hear much outside of Silicon Valley, right? And so that's like a word that you could study if you wanted to like really understand the startup ecosystem.
Okay, so now I want to geek out on this. So to all of you listening right now and all in the room, I grew up a Star Wars fan, and I loved immersive. I bought all the toys. I was a kid. I mean, actually, no, this was actually a few months ago. I bought all the toys and really wanted to immerse myself in the different languages of the planets. I read all the back of the Star Wars cars. I knew everyone's history, and there was, of course, Star Wars started in the 70s and 80s and popular. I'm a Gen Xer. And so it really it built up into this cult-like following. Like, everybody loves Star Wars, and it still goes today. And I'm wondering if Refold facilitates not only this immersion process for the individuals, but also facilitates community. Because you started out building a community, and if you're reading Harry Potter, you're reading Star Wars, and now you're immersing yourself in it through what you're doing, there's got to be other people who are doing the same thing, and you can share stories or share experiences or ask questions. Is there that pathway in Refold?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was how we launched our company. The first year was just dedicated to like building up the community and across all the various different languages and making sure that they were well moderated communities. We use Discord as our substrate for managing these communities.
Right.
And connecting people based on the content they're consuming is absolutely an easy way to build that sense of community. And that community provides people with a lot of motivation. And motivation is obviously key when you're learning anything, but especially languages, which is a very long process. You're talking like 2 to 5 years. So if you can form friendships, if you can find kindred spirits or people to get obsessed over a piece of media like Star Wars with, you gain that shared vocabulary. You gain that shared interest. And I think that's really, really important for any sort of initiative that you're trying to pursue that takes multiple years. Like starting a company, like don't try to do it alone. Find people, surround yourself with people that are actually doing the same thing so that you can share in that experience.
So we were talking also a little bit about the bootstrapping. Did you ever have to raise at any point, or is it just been completely bootstrapping from the beginning until now?
We raised a little bit from friends and family. I think $280K is how much we raised over the 6 years. But it was very much a secondary thing. I never like set out to raise money. And one of the reasons is that like I genuinely don't think that Refold is a VC fundable business.
Why do you say that? Because that's very wise.
Yeah, I considered it early on, but I had seen the downside of VCs in other companies. And so I was very tentative, or like hesitant to go into that world. Because fundamentally, VCs care about 100x results. And the reality is that 99.9% of businesses don't do that. And you can have a perfectly content business that reaches a certain size and doesn't actually need to grow anymore. It is a good company at that size. And I didn't really want the pressure of being forced to grow outside of what this thing could actually be.
So this is what I want to tell all the founders who are listening right now. This is why I feel understanding the bootstrapping process, like you've done, Ethan, is so important. Because if you would have went out and raised right away, you would have pretty much sold your entire company to somebody else and probably would have misspent a lot of money, but you have counted every dollar. You have tested the market and pretty much at this point have seen that maybe this isn't a venture backable startup. And if this is a niche business, then that's fine too, because this is solving a problem that you had. But at the same time, you can still turn a profit without having to, pay back all your investors. Essentially, you haven't given away the company.
And I would also say that like, even with the small amount of money that I did raise, I think it might have been a mistake because it allowed me to defer decisions where rather than actually dealing with the hard truth at different points in the company of like, hey, like we need to let this person go, or we need to change tactics, or we need to like narrow in and like focus on our niche. I could raise a little bit of money, give me more runway to figure that out, rather than making the hard choice up front. It gives you more runway, but it also gives you the cushion to continue making the mistakes you're currently making.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
Definitely a double-edged sword there.
So what's next for you guys? So you guys are kind of, you're now in Oakland. You've moved out of San Francisco. You're living here at STAK. And how's that transition been?
It's been great. I really like the STAK building. I tell everyone it's like great location. Like I'm on top of the 19th Street BART station. My sister lives in the city. And so it's like 3 stops into the city to see her. Super close. I've enjoyed living in Oakland. I like the weather better than San Francisco.
All good stuff. Yeah. Shameless plug for STAK.
I've been like sunbathing the past like 3 days in a row and like working outside, which is awesome. And then it's also a dream of mine. It's been a dream of mine for a long time to have a Murphy bed. For people who don't know what a Murphy bed, it's a bed that like folds up into the wall. And the building here, I live in a space where there's the bed goes to the ceiling. So I like
the Omni bed, yeah.
Yeah, the Omni bed is super cool to me. And like I show it off to people all the time. And it's great for me because I work from home. So being able to convert my like bedroom into an office at a touch of a button is extremely valuable to me.
Okay, we'll pay you later for saying
exactly.
All right.
Just a discount on my rent.
So what's next for you and Unfold? I know I asked you a minute ago, but seriously, what's kind of your next motion in order to keep this momentum going?
Yeah, so we've got this sort of narrowing of our product lines to really help people to understand specific pieces of content that they're interested in rather than what we were doing previously, which is like, we're going to help you understand everything. So there's a narrowing there on our product lines. And then the other big thing that's taken my time and attention is I ran into this other personal problem that I was having, which is like, I did not like the way that Claude and OpenAI and GPT were helping me develop software. And that has now become its own company. And so everything that we're building there, like it's made available to Refold for free. So like it accelerates our development process, software development and product development. And so there's a nice symbiosis there. But yeah, like building out the AI tooling for the new generation of companies and products and whatnot is really where my head's been at recently.
So real quick on that, and then we'll wrap up. But if you're going to an organization, a well-established organization, and management is asking you, hey, we need to have an AI strategy, what would be kind of your top of mind insight for them if they're really looking to move the needle on coming into this AI generation?
Don't just try and jam AI into everything. Find the problems that are relevant to your business and apply AI to them. And I would highly recommend any company to have an internal like AI evangelist who understands both your company, your processes, the problems in your specific space, and understands the AI technology and how it works and has done that deep dive and can really marry those two things. Because I've seen a lot of companies just like take AI and jam it into their product in a place that doesn't really make sense.
Yeah, there is a lot of companies just throwing spaghetti at the wall. And so what you're saying is find the priority and kind of work from there rather than just integrating it for the sake of integrating it.
Yeah. And the answer may be that like you don't put AI in your product at all. Maybe you just put it in your operations or in your product development or in your software development. Like there's so many different applications for AI in improving companies that are not product focused. And I think that I wouldn't say that people are like overlooking that. Like there's definitely a lot of work going into that space. But if you're a company that is trying to figure out how to apply AI to yourself, don't just focus on your product company and all the different areas that it might be able to affect.
Cool. I love it. Well, how can people connect with you? Because I'm sure there's people who are listening right now who want to learn more about what you're building and get your insight and more importantly, get to know who you are. Because it sounds like you are very community oriented, first. And so they're going to want to have questions. So how can people connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm online. LinkedIn is the only social media that I use. I don't have any other social media. I'm not on Twitter. Please don't look for me there.
Good to know.
Yeah, so LinkedIn only. And if you want to find Refold, it's refold.la or refoldlanguages.com. Either of those work. And if you're interested more on the AI software side, that's Growstack.ai.
Growstack, there it is. Okay. All right. Well, Ethan, thank you so much. Oh, wait, we got a question.
Yeah, quick question. So, I love languages as well. I actually grew up in like 4 different places. So I speak English, Dutch, and French and Spanish fluently. And right now I really want to learn Arabic, and a couple of friends of mine have been teaching that. And recently, with like voice AI coming, I see that as a potential avenue, but then there's still like things that I'm like tripping up on. So my question is like, have you experimented with like native, like full stack live AI conversations? And how's that experience been? And like, where do you think it's going? If that makes sense as a question.
Yeah, so I've used a couple tools for the AI language learning. That was one of the first applications in language learning or AI that came out. Everybody and their mother wanted to do basically voice tutors for AI or for language learning. I have seen mixed results with them, but I haven't looked at them in like the last 6 months, so they may have gotten a lot better. But especially for a language like Arabic, where it's not really one. I have a friend who studied Arabic for the US Army, and he was like, it's 11 languages in a trench coat. It's not one language. And so something like Arabic is actually really hard on the AI front because you actually have to segment the dialects and ensure that you are producing the AI voice and the AI language from the subset that you're actually working with. It's not something where you can just scan the whole internet for all of Arabic and then put it in there. So I would say it's better for some languages than others. And it's also very dependent on the tool. Like, some of the AI tutoring tools are great and some of them like really suck. So yeah, we would need to dive a little bit more into that to figure out sort of what you're trying to use and where the opportunity is there. Thank you.
Cool. Anyone else? Any other questions out there? Yeah, that was good. All right. So they can connect with you on LinkedIn. Definitely check out Refold and Ethan on LinkedIn. And then we will also have those links in our show notes. But a great show. Thanks for being here, Ethan. Really appreciate it. This is exciting for you to be rolling out these two companies at the same time and keep looking for those problems to solve. Thanks for everyone for joining us today. We'll see you next time. Stay safe.